Hard Intentions YouTube channel. We also have hardintentions.com where we sell T-shirts and hats and beanies and artwork, prints of my art, stuff like that. So, check us out. You might find something you like. And thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you guys watching the channel. Some guys asked about my tattoos, and I got some lightning bolts tattooed on my stomach and a bunch of other tattoos. Got Dago choppers on my back, and because I'm from San Diego and I ride motorcycles. So, I started getting tattoos when I was about 13. Around that time, I was in youth authority, and the very first tattoo I got was a 13 on my hand. And the 13 for guys in my generation who grew up that were in the bike scene, it's marijuana. The letter M is 13, stands for marijuana. That's for the motorcycle community, right? And I got it. Sleepy from Pomona 12th Street put it on. Hand plucked it in, with a little sharpened up sewing needle, shoved inside a toothbrush, wrapped with thread, homemade ink, and Nellis when I was in youth authority. And I was hooked. Then I started getting some other tattoos, and I did a couple tattoos on my legs. But for the most part, my tattoos in early years were kind of few until I got to Preston. Once I got to Preston, then guys were using machines and out of cassette players, 8-track players. First time I seen a machine. And so, the tattoos were mostly like, not a lot of blacks had tattoos. Most of the Hispanics would have their neighborhoods. They tattooed chicks, like hyenas, long hair, sombreros, all that kind of stuff. Zapata and Pancho Villa, stuff like that. And white dudes were into Vikings, white kind of culture, heritage stuff, warrior type stuff. Everybody was kind of into the, warrior of their ethnic background, kind of. Some guys tattooed the Aztec stuff on them, the Hispanics, the Chicano dudes. And white guys tattooed cowboys, Vikings, stuff like that. Demons, Then I started seeing guys get tattooed with racial stuff. Now, when I was in Nellis, some guys had SWP tattooed on them, which, Supreme White Power. And I never put that on me. And I remember standing chow line when I was young. I was like 13, 14, and some white dudes are talking to some black dudes about the SWP tattoo and the WP, and because some guy put WP, and so he was telling the black dudes, the chow line. I was just kind of listening, watching, and he said it means white pride, and like you guys got black pride, it means white pride, and so they were like, all right, white pride, that's cool, everybody should be proud of their race and all that. But when they were saying, when you put SWP on you, we know that means Supreme White Power. And they didn't like that. But they didn't really have a problem with the white pride, And I never forgot that conversation. I thought it was kind of funny, because you don't put tattoos on yourself you're not too concerned about what other people think when you put them on. You shouldn't be. I've seen black dudes with black power tattooed on them in the joint and stuff like that, and Mexican dudes with brown power, brown pride, and I don't think, if that's where your head's at, who cares what other people think, especially some other race, right? They're not inside your head. It's whatever race you are, so who cares what they think? So yeah, in Preston, it's kind of older school. I was a younger guy. I was 16 when I was there. I turned 17 right before I got out. But a lot of guys were in their 20s, like 20 to 25 years old. Guys are turning 25 and paroling from there, discharging actually, because that was the oldest you could be in youth authority was 25 years old. And they were tattooing, white guys, they were tattooing, white power on them. They tattooed white power down their back arms. Warbirds were a big thing, the Nazi warbirds. And they put swastikas, and um, I remember having a conversation with my mom in the visiting room. She's like, you're not German. Turns out I am. But she said, before you put any of that kind of stuff on you, you should study it. So I read some books about what was going on in Germany during World War II and all that kind of stuff. And, I'm an American. Even back then, I had a sense of, where I'm from, what I am, and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not from Nazi Germany, and I'm not, I'm not a Nazi type dude. I am a biker. I grew up around bikers. And so I never put the swastika on me. And I started to put white power on my back arms. I had a WP put on my back arms. I never got it finished. But I did put the lightning bolts on because the lightning bolts is a whole different connotation. Um, in jail, it means a white dude who has and who will stand up for himself and his folks, or his race or whatever you want to say it. It means that that you will get busy. It means and maybe you have gotten busy in the past. We had some riots, and when I was in Preston, I remember this guy we call Snake Shine. Later on in prison, he changed his name to Irish. Joined a prison gang, and I heard he's dropped out or some bad terms now. But back then, they called him Snake, and they had a Muhammad Ali fight, and he was on the other side of my building, and guys are yelling up and hooting and hollering out their window because we had radios, we didn't have TVs, so guys were listening to the fight on the radio, and they're yelling out the window, and old Snake Shine, he started yelling out the window, shut the fuck up, and using the N word, and he's kind of a lot of guys didn't like him. I kind of liked him, but I didn't know what was going on, so we came out, the next day to go to breakfast, and guys were like, "Hey, it's going to be on here in a minute." And I'm like, "What the fuck's up?" And they told me, over this fight and yelling out the window and fucking Snake and this and that. So we had a little riot, riot cracked off, and that was kind of commonplace in Preston, And Preston was a place that had a lot of white dudes, 20, 30 white dudes on a unit, whereas opposed to the youth authorities down south where there's only 3 or 4 white guys. So, yeah, so I tattooed some lightning bolts on my stomach with a bird. And see, also where I come from in the biker community, bikers tattooed and put lightning bolts on their vests and their motorcycles. There's a David Mann painting. He did paintings every month for Easy Rider magazine. Ghost Rider, and the guy has lightning bolts on his motorcycle. That was a commonplace for bikers, and it was it had kind of the same connotations. It meant that you were about the business, but it also was a big to society. It was some guys even wore swastikas. I didn't know a lot of guys that had swastikas on their vests. But it was a way of saying, hey, F society, right? We are our own, we're our own breed, and we're about the business. Not all biker guys had lightning bolts on their vests, their bikes, or on their skin. But that's kind of, and lightning bolts go back to, Viking times, lightning bolts, Thor, God of Thunder, all that kind of stuff, mythology. And, it's not the racial fu. It's just kind of fu to society, right? And a lot of guys that are in bike clubs had lightning bolts that went with a certain patch they had on their vest in the front. And in modern times, now that the lightning bolts have been kind of equated with, certain white power gangs on the street. A lot of biker dudes have kind of gotten away from the lightning bolts. Like there's a motorcycle shop down in San Diego. It was Dago Choppers, and their symbol was lightning bolts. It was a biker thing, and yeah. So I mean, I put lightning bolts on myself, and it meant a lot of things. It meant um, historical thing as far as Vikings. I had some Vikings tattooed on me. You see, little, kind of old shot out tattoos, but I'm real big on the Viking thing. I like the Viking mythology. It is mythology, and I like the Viking history and culture. Um, the Norse kind of, they traveled the earth and the oceans in boats all over the world, navigating by the stars, pillaging, conquering. So they were savages, and they were warriors. And so, modern times, that's kind of what the lightning bolts meant to me and the guys I grew up around. But like I said, I never put swastikas on me, and when I got to the pen, I never finished the WP because I started seeing guys that they had white power tattooed on their back arms. A lot of them from Youth Authority had it. Guys got it in the pen, and they had white pride tattooed on their back arms instead of white power, which kind of to me was kind of cowardice because people didn't really take offense to white pride as opposed to white power. I thought, well, and these same dudes were like slamming dope, strung out on heroin, twacked out on speed, um, buying drugs from black dudes and then talking shit about black dudes behind their back. Um, taking dope out of some other race's ass and slamming it, sticking it in their arm, which was against the rules for me. Um, I just thought, well, these dudes got this shit tattooed on them. What the fuck? White pride, should say white powder, because that's what they're down for. And so I never finished that. But I always kept my lightning bolts because, it's kind of what I thought was cool. It's what I believed in. It's what I was about. I mean, bottom line, when you're in prison, for me, I never looked for trouble, but if trouble came, I'll be there. I'll be there, you know. And that's what the bolts are about. But all the other tattoos, I was like, these guys got all this racial crap tattooed on them, but they're shooting dope that they're getting from other races. So what does that really mean? That's when I really started waking up to, like, fuck these guys talking all this smack. They're not about the shit. They're just flapping their lips. They're down for white powder. That's what they're down for. You know what I'm saying? So you know, when I got into tattooing, I never tattooed none of that shit on people. I always tattooed artwork on people. I did a few guys from motorcycle clubs. I do their patch and tattoo around their patch with cool stuff. Monsters and a lot of dudes tattooed demons on them, monsters and skulls, and because the fast-paced life we lived, and a lot of us used to snort crank and speed, and ride bikes, and once we were in the pen, prison was kind of crazy, man, and it's like living in a world of chaos and evil, man. Really, bottom line. So we live. Everybody has their own demons. So guys, the monster demon tattoos kind of have a connotation of their own. Um, you know, we all have demons, and some of us have struggle with them demons. So um, I had a friend that had cast out the demons tattooed on him. You know, so that's pretty much white dude tattoos, and that's where the tattoos I got. Guys make comments about them, and I put them tattoos on when I was in youth authority, and something you have to live up to the rest of your life too while you're in the pen. Yeah, that or cover them up, and I'm not about to cover up something that I was about. So a lot of Hispanics, like I said, they put their neighborhoods, and then they get their backs blasted with it's called the Azteca walks, the Aztec walks. It's an Aztec holding his old lady in his arms with pyramids in the background, and you know, a lot of their tattoos have kind of little hidden meanings, you know, like Aztec hieroglyphics mean certain stuff to them. Means that you know, they're about the business. You can look at a guy's tattoos, um, and you could tell, hey, that dude's about the shit because of his tattoos. Um, you know, the Chicano dudes in the pen and Pi says they're not just gonna put any old tattoo on them. Um, they put certain tattoos on them because they're about the shit. So even I could tell, okay, this dude's got certain shit tattooed on him. That means he's about the business, you know. And so that's kind of what white dude tattoos are too. Um, and you know, everyone, if they're in a gang or whatever, they'll tattoo their gang name on them, which got a lot of guys locked up because they would join prison gangs. Then they all got slammed, and then another prison gang came about and they started getting tattooed and they grew real big, and they all got slammed. They got put in a hole for indefinite shoot terms because they were identified by their tattoos. And I don't have any gang tattoos. So I've never been a part of a gang, and you know, you don't have to be affiliated with a prison gang to have lightning bolts tattooed on you. And as a matter of fact, none of the prison gangs I know use the lightning bolts as their symbol. Um, you know, you can research, however, Google or whatever, and find out what their symbols were. Um, it's not for me to say because I'm not part of any of those gangs. Uh, but you know, tattooing, man, in prison, guys. You know, I just tattooed stuff I thought was cool. You know, I fucked my left arm up tattooing on it when I was young. Then I put cover up, over cover up, and I was learning how to tattoo. And so tattooing became a way for me to earn money, and it became a creative outlet. And you know, I used to charge $100 an arm, $100 a chest, $200 a leg, and $200 a back. And a video I did about Joe Zoll, I did his back and his arms. My friend that's on death row, Todd, I did his chest and his back and his arms. You know, that was my creative outlet, and none of them dudes had any racial shit tattooed on them. It was all kind of artistic kind of stuff. And I got to the point where I'd say, hey, you know, you good with this, 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 and this? And they go, yeah, and I just draw up shit, and they'd be like, yeah, cool, and I, you know, they gave me creative license. And that's what I did. It was my hustle, and it was also my creative outlet, you know, and it led to my drawing and then my painting. And I still tattoo out here a little bit. I'm getting ready to freeze on it eventually. Um, it's kind of a hassle, and the pay is not. Everyone thinks tattoo artists get rich out here. Maybe they did in the 80s and 90s when tattooing first became acceptable out here in the streets. Maybe guys got rich off of, but now I think there's so many people tattooing and so many stupid guys that think any tattoo's cool, even if it's called traditional and it looks like shit with big giant fat lines with a splotch of color here and there tossed in. You know, anyone can do that, and it seems like a lot of guys that's what they're getting. Just any old tattoo will do. So it's hard to make a living tattooing out here, and that's why I work. But excuse me. Uh, But tattooing in the pen and tattooing, you know, I did a few guys in clubs. I never tattooed any prison gang shit. Um, you know, tattooing has a special when I'm on the yard and I got 4 or 5 dudes fully body suited on the yard that I did. I can just kind of grin like, you know. And then you got guys, hey man, will you tattoo on me? And I didn't just tattoo on anyone just because they had money didn't mean I was going to tattoo on them, you know. Because that meant they were wearing my work, which means they carried my name on them, you know. So that's something to think about too, you know. But when certain guys would ask me to tattoo on them, you know, guys that come in from the streets, it'd be in a club or something, we'd be like, hey man, we put my patch on my back. That was like, especially when I was young. That was it was quite an honor. To be to me. Uh, I knew a guy, a friend of mine. He was in a bike club, and a guy popped in from San Francisco, and he's like, "Hey, Smiley." He was in a different club, and he goes, "Hey, this guy wants his back tattooed. He wants his patch." So I told him you could do it, and he introduced us, and I did it. So I thought, man, that was cool shit. It really was. Later on, he got out and he got killed. But yeah, it was quite a deal, man. So certain tattoos have special meaning to me and special significance. And when people ask you to tattoo on them, they're about something. That means something too. Because guys that are about shit, they don't just have anybody tattoo on them. I remember I tattooed on my friend John from Sacramento. Someone did his patch on his back, and they kind of fucked it up. So I fixed it for him, and I redid his whole patch, and I did the top rocker, then the centerpiece and bottom rocker, but put Vaseline on it to help it heal. And I go up to his pad, to tattoo the next day, and on his sheets a big backwards imprint of his tattoo, where it was some of the ink was sweat out into the grease, and it would leave the imprint on his sheet. I thought that was pretty cool. But I remember a lot of the dudes I tattooed on. I remember, like this dude they called Johnny Cat, man. He had something going on. He was getting weed brought in from some free staff where he worked, and he'd throw me joints, little balls of weed once in a while, and I knew he wanted some tattoos, So one day I go, hey, check it out. I'm gonna come up to your house during lunch because we had hot lunch back then, and they would lock the yard down during lunch for like an hour, hour and a half. So I go, hey, Johnny Cat, I'm gonna come up to your pad. I'm gonna tattoo on you. He's all, really? I mean, he was no outstanding dude. He was just a regular Joe, but he was a good dude, and he used to look out for me. I used to smoke weed back then in the pen, and so I popped in his cell and I tattooed a big turtle on his stomach. I did it in like an hour. Big turtle. I mean, it was pretty big. Took up his whole stomach, like a sea turtle. And he just thought that was a shit. And years later, I was in Lancaster. I mean, like 10 years later, and some guy goes, "Hey, Turtle said to tell you hi." And I go, "Well, I don't know anybody named Turtle. Only Turtle I know is a dropout, and he's no good." And he goes, "Nah, this guy's Turtle from," and they started, I said, "Oh," so Johnny Cat changed his name to Turtle because he got a turtle tattooed on his stomach. But, those are good times, that you remember. Sitting in the cell, tattooing, smoking weed with somebody and tattooing on them, or just hanging out with them and tattooing on them, being on the yard talking about tattoos, or maybe somebody you ran around with, played handball with, walked the track with, and you tattooed on. Um, People are still sending me messages about Joe. Joe Zoll. Joe and I hung out quite a bit together. I tattooed him fully, and he's passed away, and so those memories are what help me keep him alive. Is those memories? He'll never be dead to me because I have those memories that we of the times we spent together. Tattooing and hanging out together and telling me about his life on the street and just our whole experience in the pen together. You're both in a miserable place, and Tracy, at that time, it was kind of cool, but I mean, it gets in the hundreds, 100, 105, 110 degrees in the summer, and you're miserable, and you're fucking in prison, and there's a bunch of shit bags around you, and you connect with that guy, and you're tattooing with him, and it's just it's an experience that you never forget, man. And I'm glad I have them, and I don't regret any of my tattoos. I was gonna try and have some of my shit lasered off. Like I said, I fucked my arm up learning. Um, but I just figure, hey, it's part of my life. It's part of my history, and so I'm not gonna erase it. I'm gonna leave it on, and that's my thing. I got out of prison, and my friend John said, "Hey, look, I want you to color in all my prison tattoos." And I said, "Well, why?" He says, "Well, when I go in the store and I got a tank top on, I feel out of place and like people are looking at me because I'm an ex-con." And so I colored in a lot of his tattoo work, and he says, "Man, I'm cool now. I go to the store, people don't bat an eye because they see colored ink. They don't really equate it with prison." So he's got the same tattoos, but they're colored now. which is kind of cool. And we have that experience. Like my first Thanksgiving when I was out, before I moved up here to the mountains, I was in Orange County at his pad. Had my first Thanksgiving with him. I was tattooing, then we broke and ate Thanksgiving dinner together. So that's another experience out here in the world, tattooing. So, tattooing is, when you think about what you're doing, you're putting ink inside somebody's skin, and it's a close proximity, man. It's up close and personal shit. So the people that you tattoo on should not just be any old Joe Blow. It should be somebody that you like and you respect. And I get it, it's a business and there's money in it, but there's a lot of weird ass shit that goes on out here in the world now. Weird ass people are getting tattooed. It's not just ex-convicts, sailors, and bikers anymore. It's just anybody that wants one can go get one, and they're getting them. But and I don't know if I'm good with that. Tattooing on just anybody. So I've had some really positive tattoo experiences, and I'm grateful for it. But yeah. So that's my tattoo stories a little bit, and the guy I'm tattooing on now is a good friend. He's in sobriety, and he's a single dad, and take care of his young boy, and he works his ass off, and he uh, he had his chest done by somebody else, and he asked me to do some color work, and now I did one arm, now I'm doing his other arm, short sleeves, and we have a good time, and it's a new adventure, and yeah, it's kind of like prison, I used to tattoo on one guy at a time. I didn't run guys in and out of my cell. I just tattooed on one dude. I used to move guys in my cell. They'd send money to my books for their tattoos, and I'd do their tattoo work, and however long it took. And then the next guy I was going to tattoo on, he would send the money to my books, and then they would switch cells. And it's kind of what I'm doing now. I'm doing one guy at a time, It's a new experience, and it's out here in the world, and it's free, and it's great shit. So if you get some tattoo work, um, don't just walk in and pick some crap off the board, and don't just say, "Oh, you know how to tattoo," and let the guy show you one tattoo, you know, and say he's a good guy. Good, shop around. Make him show you a whole body of work before you just say, "Hey, I want you to tattoo on me." Make him show you, portfolio of work, a consistent, steady style. If you like that style, then get as much work as you can from one person. That way, it all blends and flows together. There's nothing uglier than what I see now is the patches of tattoos. Like we call it patchwork, like a tattoo here, tattoo here. Nothing flows together. It's kind of crappy. So before you get yourself a tattoo, think about it. Think about what you want, how you want it, and who you want it to do it. And just remember, good tattoos ain't cheap, and cheap tattoos ain't good. So when you get tattooed, get it done right and get it done hard. Take care of yourselves, man, and thanks for watching. Have a good day. Be safe. Thank you. And have a good new year. Bye, folks. Thank you.